You're listening to LeaderCast, episode 184. Welcome to LeaderCast, Transforming Missions podcast with Tim Bias and Sarah Thomas, providing you with insights and resources you need to lead a movement of Jesus followers. Today is part one of a two-part mini-series on best wisdom for rest, relaxation, and play. We're going to hear from half of the leaders that you see on the picture for this episode today, and then the other half next week. The big theme for this week comes around self-awareness, recognizing what you need, your limitations, recognition of scheduling challenges, and still being able to focus on rest, relaxation, and play, and the importance of it as a leader and as a human being. Next week, you'll hear wisdom about rest, relaxation, and play when it's hard, and also about making it an integral part of your leadership. So there's some overlap. So here's what you're going to hear in each one of these episodes. I am simply going to introduce the person who is offering the wisdom and let their story lead you through this episode. So we won't be introducing, here's the big theme. I just did that. Listen, though, for threads from one person to the next, because we did intentionally order the wisdom that is shared in a specific way because they build on one another, they lead to one another, they reinforce one another, and I think you'll hear that over and over again, that it's almost as if we orchestrated these individuals telling a story, and we didn't. We've spoken to them over the course of, gosh, I think it's been 7 months now that we've had these conversations. Enjoy this episode and the next one, listening to people talk about the joys and challenges of rest, relaxation, and play. Once again, you can find show notes for this episode where you'll see a list of who is included in this episode as well as the next episode at transformingmission.org/podcast. To go directly to this episode, simply go to transformingmission.org/184. Without any further wait, let's get started with wisdom from Colonel Graham.
Find something that you enjoy that takes you away from ministry or what you do every day. And for me, I love cars and I love travel. The open road is my place of solace. And so, Amy knows that every now and then I have a need to just get away. And I do. And so it's usually involved a drive in a different automobile in a different route. And often going to one of those places, South Carolina often is my spiritual well. Every now and then I just have to go back again and again to the well to refresh my soul, to go to a place. So simply, going to that place that's in somewhat sacred to me. I look at my great grandfather's house that's still standing. It's not habitable, but it's still there. And the land that my family's been on over 100 years. When I stand on that ground and walk around and remember the stories of my ancestors, it refreshes me because they made sacrifices that my life could be better. They were courageous so I could have a better life. And so my courage comes in, hoping now for my children, my daughters, and my granddaughters, that their life can be better because of something that I may have done or said for them or for the larger world.
Here's wisdom from Joe Gary.
First, I would say recognize your own limits and when to take a break. And by break, I mean it may be immediate time getting away. It may be extended. It may be a day off, it may be vacation, sabbatical, or something longer. And that requires self-understanding and reflection and knowledge and awareness of your temperament, physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. As a courageous leader, that's part of leading within. We've spoken about leading above to your supervisor, leading laterally to your peers, leading beyond to those that you're called to work with and serve. But a good 360-degree leader, courageous leader, has a relationship with a unique person made in the image of God. That is you. Out of 8 billion people alive today, God thought the world incomplete without you. And so you have a responsibility to nurture the courageous leader within around rest, relaxation, and play. Don't be so rigid both with your own time off, but also be flexible in regard, especially if you're a ministerial leader that may require your response with compassion for others. People don't choose when they die. Families must hold funerals at a time that makes sense to them. These things are disruptive to days off and sometimes plans, but we can be adaptive leaders and take other days off and move things around in a way that we're able to take care of responsibilities, but also to do that type of inner care. Remember, you can't give what you don't have. Ask yourself what allows your soul to heal, retool, gain perspective, and have equilibrium once again. Know what gives you rest. Is it extra sleep? A sense of getting some distance from your work? Is it a hobby? A spiritual practice? It's important to try all of these in the journey of getting to know what we need and who we are, to find ways that work for the individual, that work for you. And remember, you don't need permission from others to relax. Take thou authority and do that. I remember in the military when we were in formation, our sergeant or our officer might call us to attention, which meant a rigid physical stance and focus. And then once we were brought to order, there was the following command, at ease, which meant your body could relax, your posture, your stance. And so those come in tandem. We have life as a courageous leader in ways that require us and summon us to attention. But we also have that shadow side that must follow that says, at ease. And how are we balanced in that regard right now? Which might require more response from us? You know, for me in a personal practice, it's a breath prayer, praying a phrase of scripture or thought in for up to 7 to 10 seconds, and then slowly exhaling a response for 7 to 10 seconds. It's a type of guided meditation for me. I do that over the course of 15 minutes, and I find I'm more relaxed before a presentation or a tough meeting I'm about to face, tough duty as a courageous leader I'm called to perform. What helps you to be playful? For me, it's humor. What makes me laugh? Sometimes I have a very dry sense of humor. Sometimes it's more conventional. But I find that laughter, including self-deprecating humor, aimed toward me, that I can either initiate or accept from others, helps me to let go of any false notions of self. I find when I let go, I become more creative in that part of my thinking. I would say be flexible in these matters of rest, relaxation, play. And I would quote a modern proverb, blessed are the flexible, they shall not be bent out of shape.
Now let's hear from Jessica Moffett and her wisdom for rest, relaxation, and play.
Well, my first recommendation would be take a figure out a way to fully separate. Absolutely set aside everything that you do that's professional. And I would have to ask, first of all, do you know what refreshes you? So here's the question. Does a person actually know what brings rest? You may think that scrolling through social media is relaxing, when in fact, it might be really engaging your distressed side of your life. So that would be the first question. Does a person know what is truly restful? And then to pay attention to all those many other things that are really not about the church that feed your soul. So in my life, I've got about these 11 things that run simultaneously. I've told you I call them horses, and I give them all attention because 10 of those, if those are in good shape, my soul feels rested. And so, can we be so self-aware that we know what those things are and then do those? For me, it's being at water is the most restful. My number one thing to do is to go to a beach or to a lake, or right here by where I live. I live right by the Arkansas River. And the most restful is to go stare at the water.
Now let's hear from Rachel Billups and her wisdom.
I think this one's a little tough for me because I have to tell myself to have fun. Like I have to tell myself, hey, you deserve joy. You deserve a little delight. And so again, some of the things that I do to rest, to play. Last Thursday is a good example. I've now scheduled myself at least once a month where I just have this day with Jesus. I call them God adventures, where I just do whatever I feel like doing, what I feel like the Spirit is leading me to do. So like this last Thursday, I had one of these days that was just me and Jesus. And first of all, I got basically a massage. And that led me to then getting lunch at my favorite place. Well, I have a friend that's kind of struggling right now, and I decided I was going to pick her up a lunch. So I dropped off a lunch to her and had a really fun conversation with her. And then I took a nap, and so whether it's I really love food, so eating the things that I absolutely love, or even doing something that I really love to do, taking a hike, playing a board game, you name it. And so I've been trying to do things that I find fun. Now, my version of fun is not everybody's version of fun, but when I'm moving, when I'm like just enjoying God's creation, that's when I'm relaxing and playing and having fun.
Let's hear what Amy Burgess has to say about her best wisdom for rest, relaxation, and play.
I mean, working as a mascot, I don't have the capacity of communicating verbally with anyone, right? So my capacity to communicate is purely physical, and I have to be able to communicate every possible human emotion without ever saying a word, right? So what does it look like to be concerned? What does it look like to be mischievous? What does it look like to be the life of the party? Like all of these are things that I have to consider physically. How am I representing on a daily basis? And the mood can change super quick, and the atmosphere in the room can change even by one person walking in that hadn't previously been there. Like I use sweets as a perfect example, because you're at a baseball game and you sort of like, it's easy to lump a crowd into like, everyone is a fan. Like, I'll just interact with the fans, right? Like, but it's so much more personal than that, right? Like, I'm looking to make personal connections with individuals in the ballpark so that when they walk out of the ballpark, they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe Rosie did that to you, because it was uniquely you in that moment, right? It also makes people go, oh, that was meant for me. That wasn't like a big crowd reaction. And so when you're able to like single in on one person and create a moment with them, then they not only become fans of you as a mascot or a person or a performer, but they become fans of the brand, the organization, the thing that I represent, right? So, for me to take an extra, 3 or 4 minutes to like sit down on the ground and have an interaction with, a 5-year-old girl who just wanted to see Rosie at the ballpark, and knowing that I've got a line of people, 12 deep that want photos behind her. But if I take that extra couple of minutes, like it's not only making her day that she got to spend this like quality time with Rosie, but her parents are now super happy about it. The other fans in the line predominantly are happy that, like, oh my gosh, like, look at this interaction. Like, Rosie actually really cares about this person, right? And maybe she cares about me too, right? So you're building a relationship, and when you take time to actually stop and have a connection with somebody beyond like whatever my agenda was previously prior to that interaction, then I think you really start to build connections, and you build trust and an awareness about, what it is that you represent as a person.
Here's what Dennis Miller had to offer about rest, relaxation, and play.
I like to say to church leaders, the greatest gift that you can give your church is the gift of a healthy soul, a healthy you. We were all created for work and rest. In fact, Genesis 1 and 2, we find this established in the creation story. So I often tell leaders, as I tell myself, the surest way not to give 100% is to try to give 100% all the time. I love the wisdom of Rick Warren. This has been used a lot, but I try to model my life off this advice about avoiding pastoral burnout, that we need to divert daily, withdraw weekly, abandon annually. So what does that mean in my life? And I try to practice this. Divert daily, to do something for a short amount of time that relaxes. So I'm in a season right now of walking. I walk 3 to 6 miles a day, and I've worked up to that. Often I walk part of that with my spouse, and so we also have that time just to share about the day's events in life. But that's a way to escape even what can be sometimes the craziness of the day. And then to withdraw weekly, to take a Sabbath day. The word Sabbath means to cease. Yet many ministry leaders are working on Sunday morning, and so it needs to be another day. So I've set apart personally, and over the last decade, I have really stuck to this. Unless there's an emergency, of course, that I take Fridays off. For me, that's a time to get away. It's often a motorcycle ride into West Virginia, down into Tim's home state, or another place where no one knows my name, but I can just enjoy being instead of doing. But it's that time of cease. For me, it's a time of rest and restore my weary soul. And then I would say number 3, as Warren mentions, abandon annually, disconnect completely for a couple weeks, set time apart so God can just speak to you and do some work in your life, create some sacred space. I encourage pastors in our district to take more than 1 week at a time, because 1 week you're often just looking forward to what's happening next Sunday, but at least 2 weeks if you're able to do that. To listen to Jesus. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are tired and heavy laden, I will give you rest." So those 3 things.
And here's wisdom from Charles Boyu.
Because I have struggled, honestly, with what is rest? What is relaxation? I think I've done better with play. Rest, relaxation, and play is really an integral part of the ministry of a leader, the life mission of a leader. Because if you are going to be alert, aware, resilient, committed, trustworthy, you have to be at your best. And the human body is an engine. Just like a car, of course, we think of ourselves as better than cars, and I think we are, but that's just us thinking about ourselves. I sometimes wonder what the dogs think of us. Birds think of us. What do even our cars think of us? So rest, relaxation, and play is born out of sensitivity to the real needs of human beings and allowing them to just breathe.
I hope as you listen to the wisdom from each of these leaders in this episode and the episode that will drop next week, that you are encouraged. Encourage that you're not alone, that sometimes rest, relaxation, and play is a struggle. Encourage that different things can be fun and bring joy. And encourage to hear so many people say, hey, this is a part of the work that we do as leaders. We care for ourselves and we do need to rest, relax, and play. It's not an afterthought. It's an intentional action that we take. So here are your questions to write it down or talk it out this week. 1, what refreshes you? 2, what brings you joy? And 3, what does rest, relaxation, and play look like each day, each week, and every year? As a reminder, you can find show notes, including the list of the people that were mentioned and shared their wisdom on this episode, and who's coming up next week for part 2 on the best wisdom for rest, relaxation, and play. You can find that on the show notes page at transformingmission.org/184. And remember, who you are is how you lead. Bye for now.